congratulations for making history. First ever female on a Formula Drift podium.
I have obviously been involved in racing my whole entire life. My dad raced trophy trucks, so from a very, very young age, I had seen the operations of how race teams have operated.
Randy's the one, their dad got them into motorsports racing, and they both were really timid at first.
Being a parent and raising the kids in the motorsport industry is something that's really like, I wouldn't change it.
Can you believe this?
But I do feel that the guys are way more intimidated to drive against the females than they are to drive against another male driver.
Do you feel it benefits you being a woman when it comes to marketing?
Brandon always used to say, wow, I wish I had to.
It goes into the pitch to land something as big as, for example, Air Force.
For me, sponsorship looks a lot different. However, I have my brother, I have Cameron, I have had a lot of other drivers reach out to me. It's so important to have good relationships around the pits. Always represent yourself as an athlete on a professional level. And I also feel like what's meant for you will come for you. And when you bring a brand, or you bring a fan, or you bring a friend or a family member to Formula Drift or to any of the drifting events, I think it's always ending in a wow factor.
I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era.
Welcome back to the Circle of Drift podcast. I want to say thank you again for stopping in every single week for a brand new episode. Of course, this show is presented by SimHQ, where you can always save 5% off on your next upgrade with code Circle of Drift. But if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, my name is Dawson, and here on the Circle of Drift, we interview some of the most interesting personalities within the industry to help you get the best insights, info, opinions possible to help you get into drifting. But today we are back at FD in St. Louis to hear from Amanda Sorensen, one of the females in FD, along with several of her family members that drive as well. And she runs a lot of the marketing side of things, and she's here to share a lot of the insights on that and how the program even works. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the episode. We've got one that you guys have asked for quite a few times, Amanda Sorensen. So first off, how are we doing this weekend? I know you didn't have the best outcome with competition and everything, so
Yeah,
what
St.
happened?
Louis has definitely not been our greatest, just because obviously this track, yesterday I didn't get as many practice laps as I wanted. With the heat here, I was suffering with some melting spark plug wires. Just something like an unforeseen issue that we didn't really know coming into St. Louis, obviously. And it's one of those things where we're just gonna have to redesign the way the headers are going into the off season. But unfortunately, yesterday, my lead run in top 32, I just hit the wall, and it wasn't even a hard hit, but it was a hit just enough to break the rear controlling arm. So the guys were putting the car back together, and they ran into a problem that they also didn't catch when they were kind of briefing the car before they started the timer, and we were 2 seconds too late. So it's what it is, but it's a learning experience for the team, and I think that it's going to go into not just, like, obviously it's a loss for the weekend, but it's something that the team's going to have to grow on, and it'll make them stronger in the end.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the header design. What specifically about, what headers is it? Or just custom headers, I assume?
Yeah, we have custom headers on the cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just remapping the entire thing? And that's the only issue?
Honestly, the distance between the header and the spark plug wire, it's so humid here that they're swelling, they're melting.
Oh, wow.
So that's just a problem that obviously, like I said, an unforeseen issue. Like Jersey was hot, but it's not humid there, you know? So my car over the off season got rebuilt. This drift car, my family and I built in about 5 years ago. And it was our first car that we actually built in-house at our shop as a family. And I haven't rebuilt it since. There's been a lot of upgrades done to it, a lot of progress made on the car, but I've never stripped the car and just re-put it back together in an off-season. So this off-season, we stripped the car, put it back together, and honestly, it's stronger than ever.
Really?
Yeah.
It's been through some crashes and stuff too, and you haven't torn it apart for that, I assume?
Well, I mean, obviously, you're going to straighten out the chassis every once in a while, but I've never had any major wrecks.
Well, that's fair, yeah.
Nothing that the team couldn't fix where
That's
the car
gotta
had
be
to
like
be written off.
a badge of honor, right? Especially being a woman in a dominantly male sport.
Yeah.
But Well, cool. As far as, everything else with the program, I know you've got a lot going on, but there's a whole team involved with all of this. So how do you control all of it? I know you're a lot of the brains of the marketing and everything. So what all goes into this?
Yeah, so I have obviously been involved in racing my whole entire life. My dad raced trophy trucks, so from a very, very young age, I had seen the operations of how race teams have operated. Anywhere from booking flights to making sure that the semi can get a place and all of those things. And so as I've grown up, the responsibilities from our parents supporting us in this have been handed over to us. And task by task, we've been able to navigate our way of, I've drove the semi on the road for a full season in 2024.
I didn't know that.
Midway through the year, our semi-truck driver couldn't attend anymore, and Brandon and I decided to drive the semi from each round to the following round, and it was a learning experience. It was so fun. I think it's actually the best time I'd ever had with my brother. One stage, we had the worst luck. We blew an airbag and on the semi, and we actually melted the Heim, and we couldn't get the wheel off because we ended up blowing a wheel, and it was just a process where we were stuck on the side of the road from about 10 p.m. till 7 a.m. in the morning. And
What
Brandon
in
and I
the
are
hell?
just working together to try to get this thing off, and the cotter pin wouldn't come out. And so it was an eventful night. But I think that's the crazy thing about drifting, and that's what's, shaped our family and our career into the way it is. So not only do I just do, the driving aspect, I do a lot more. I'm very intrigued by marketing. I love social media, and over COVID, I had found really just a passion for creating and editing videos. So I would film my own content,
Well, you
and
edited everything too.
I would edit everything on my Instagram, everything on my TikTok. My TikTok blew up. I remember I hit 1 million on TikTok, and I was struggling on Instagram, and now it's reverse. I'm almost at 2 million on Instagram, and I cannot get past 1.3 million on TikTok. But these are things that I loved doing that in my free time. I loved creating the edits, and I've now created a team around me where I can fastly process through content, on-track shots, getting ready shots, and GoPro angles. And then we have our social media manager who does stuff, and I operate that team now under me for myself, Brandon, and Cameron. Aside from social media, I also handle all the partnerships, so sponsorship stuff, doing the marketing stuff, selling the real estates on the car, making sure the deliverables are written out perfectly
For
so we
all
can
cars?
execute them. Yeah. And so it's been fun, but I just love the business side of things, and it wasn't until this past year that I actually started taking the driving side more serious. But sometimes I feel you have to build the foundation in order to succeed first, and for me, building that foundation looked like making sure the right funding was coming in, making sure the right team was under us, and it's been a work in progress, and there's definitely a lot more to improve on, but I feel we have a bright future ahead.
Good, good. Do you think that stuff gets recognized enough? Because obviously, you just mentioned a lot of details that I didn't even know
Yeah,
either.
I think
So
as a driver and just me as a person, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. There's a lot of keyboard warriors out there, but they really don't bother me, to be honest. But I think for me, I want to be recognized as a driver. I want to be recognized as a driver, and I've earned my respect there. I have put my time in. Obviously, getting the podium to be the first female to podium in Formula Drift was a huge statement, and the support that I have around the paddock, not just from my team, but from other drivers and the series, and even just the starting line marshal, he'll come up and give me a fist bump before I go out. It's crazy the support that I've gained, and I feel I've gained that respect as a driver here, and that's the persona that I chose. I don't need to highlight the marketing stuff for the business stuff. This is who I am, obviously, but I want to inspire others to push boundaries. And when the little girls come up to me and are like, oh my gosh, you're a race car driver, you can drift this car. I'm yeah, let me put you in the car. And that's kind of what I like to do.
all of the cars that you market, what goes into the pitch to land something as big as, for example, Air Force or all of the other big name companies that you're dealing with? Because that's not just an easy task. Nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've had a lot of experience. I think for me it's a lot different being a female in this male-dominated industry with a large social media following. Gaining sponsorship looks a lot different than your typical drifter. There's no way there's a spider on my hat right now. Okay, we handled that well. I hate spiders. So I think for me, sponsorship looks a lot different. However, I have my brother, I have Cameron, I have had a lot of other drivers reach out to me. And so I've had to help them navigate based off what I know about this industry. And so just speaking more to general public here rather than my scenario, I think it's so important to have good relationships around the pits. I think it's so important to always represent yourself as an athlete on a professional level. And I also feel like what's meant for you will come for you. I can relate this even to going and doing tests for an open seat in a car. And, you know, I may have been the fastest driver there, but I wasn't small enough to fit in the seat to share the car with the other driver. And I think that as much as you always want to chase that sponsorship, and I always say, like, you know, I would love to work with brands like Nike on the side of my car or Sephora on the side of my car. But at the end of the day, you can chase those and you can put as much time and energy into those. But I think what's meant for you will come for you. And I've noticed that with the brands because they might seem like they're a perfect fit in your eyes, but in reality, you don't know what their marketing goals are. And until you navigate the waters of what the marketing department in that certain company is looking for, whether it's lead generation, brand awareness, maybe even just sales, until you understand what their marketing goals are, you're not gonna know how to pitch yourself. So step one is, well, okay, if we're gonna go after a brand, what are they looking for? Are they looking for brand awareness? Or are they looking to just be the tire that wins the championship in Formula Drift Tire Cup? They don't care how many followers you have. There's a lot of brands where I've worked with and they're like, we're already known. We don't need brand awareness anymore. But what we need is somebody to help us in our research development to develop something. And that's where our partnership's gonna come into play. We're gonna use you as a driver to help us develop this. So talking with all the brands, everybody has a different perspective. And some of them are old school, some of them are young and they love the social media, but that's just honestly, like, once you understand what they're wanting, that's how you can target, okay, can I help this brand or can I not help this brand? Maybe if you didn't have that many Instagram followers and they're looking for brand awareness, there's a way to definitely pivot around it and say, okay, well, Formula Drift is an insane foundation, first of all. This foundation of Formula Drift, after driving in all the other series, as well as not just drifting series outside of this, but different types of motorsports, there's been so much that I've learned, and I'm so grateful for Formula Drift, the way that they do things. They offer a lot to a driver. They offer us footage to repost on our channels without even charging us. They allow us, there's a lot of things that they do to help the drivers, and if the drivers can tap into that, then there's a lot of things other than just themselves that they have to offer a brand. We have, you know, Long Beach, our opener is insane how many people come there. Why would a brand not want to set up an activation in your tent to generate leads? If they're looking for automotive enthusiasts that possibly could buy the steering wheel that they're selling, or just even to get their name out there, there's so many eyeballs walking around, and it's not just one day, it's 3 days. Like, there's so much more than just you as a driver there's to offer. So I think understanding what the brand wants, and then, okay, what tools do I have to help them feed into this marketing campaign and strategy that they want?
You mentioned an activation. Now, I've had conversations with people about that, and they have no clue what I'm even talking about. So explain what an activation is for people that don't know.
Yeah, so activations are tricky for one, because obviously you are also competing against the series when you want to set up an activation in your booth. Possibly there might be, say for example, I'm with Rockstar Energy, and there's another driver that wants to bring in a different energy drink and hand them out to the whole pit. That might be going against what Formula Drift already has on contract. So there's some times where you have to just come in and work with the series and say, hey, can I set up this booth, and we're just gonna keep them in our booth and they're gonna give them out for free. So an activation is really just putting a product in a consumer's hand or a potential consumer's hand. An activation could be putting a logo on the side of the car to build the brand awareness. this whole thing is an activation. This podcast
Yeah.
is an activation.
So essentially a deliverable.
Exactly.
Is what
Yeah.
you're, yeah, I get it. Well, cool. Would you say drifting has been, since you've been in multiple motorsports, would you say drifting has been the easiest to market or the most beneficial?
I think for me personally, I've had a lot of success in drifting and the marketing side of drifting. There's obviously pros and cons with every series that I've driven in. This one is more targeted towards the driver, real estate on the side of the car, on-site events rather than outside PR and media. There's been other series that I've driven in where there's no real potential to sell sponsorship as a driver hired for another team, but there's potential sponsorship to sell for PR outside of that series, maybe coming in as a female and representing a brand for something just as a driver.
Now, I've got to ask this, I'm sorry, but do you feel it benefits you being a woman when it comes to marketing? Because you'll get the guys that are out there that are saying, oh, she only has that because she's a woman. She only has that because this, that, da, 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 da.
Yeah, I think it's funny to say. Brandon always used to say, wow, I wish I had tits. Like, I wish I had blonde hair. And for me, yes, there's a lot of benefit, but there's also a lot of pushback. I feel like some brands, they want to work with you because women in sports right now is such a big topic. Women in sports is no longer a movement, it's a thing, it's present. Whereas if you look back into the history of sports, women in sports has just been always a movement. Now it's a thing. We have F1 Academy, we have female Olympic teams. Like, it's crazy that females in sports is a thing. It's no longer a movement. So I think that with that being said, it almost is now leveling up the playing field for me because I can go pitch a brand and I can get paid just as much as the male driver. To whereas I think previously, if we look back 5-10 years, talking with drivers, older female drivers in the history of like motorsports, they always struggle to find funding. They always struggle to find the support because they're under so much more pressure, I think, because you don't just look around and say there's 10 other females here. You're the only female. So they have so much more reason to say like, wow, you're different, so I'm gonna focus on you because you're different. So it depends on how you look through that lens. Are you gonna benefit from that or are you gonna take it in a negative way? For me, I love it. Like, I'm different. Yeah, it's created a lot more eyes on me, but I've also proven myself. I've gained the respect being a driver and I've put in the work. I think that I would love to see more females in drifting. I would love to see more females in motorsports, and as the years pass by, like even this year we have 4 drivers and 4 female drivers in this sport.
Incredible drivers, by the way.
Incredible drivers, exactly. Allows me to show up and not question myself, like, am I really supposed to be here? I can look around and see somebody like Colette Davis and I see a mirror image. It's not like I'm going out there and I'm having those questions anymore. So seeing the progression of females in motorsports is like, it's amazing, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you were kind of the first one to get the whole bully aspect almost. So like from the outsider perspective, it seems like Shelly and Colette are both almost getting bullied this year. Like guys are just don't want to lose against them. And I see the comments all the time. Did you kind of get that whenever you first came in?
I think...
Or do you even think that's a thing?
I would agree. I don't know. I think that it's honestly just been unfair luck with that situation. But I do feel that the guys are way more intimidated to drive against the females than they are to drive against another male driver. And I think with that, that's where the risks start to begin to happen. They start to take higher chances because nobody wants to lose to a girl, but nobody wants to lose. I don't want to lose. You don't want to lose. So like, I think that us being a female going up against the other driver allows them to tap into their higher playing field, to be honest. And that's where more risks are taken. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily that they're being bullied. I just think that there are times where someone's like, dang, he's really nervous because he's going up against you. But that's because we've proven ourselves. We're drivers. Like, we've earned the respect. Colette's earned the respect. Shelly's earned the respect. Like, we are literally out here turning laps. Like, running doors just as hard as they are.
It's arguably better that way. I would agree. Because, I mean, truthfully, drifting is a good balanced sport. It's all a machine. You're just the operator. So,
yeah.
I mean, how much can you really boil it down to? I think it's just, like you mentioned earlier, keyboard warriors just doing their thing.
You always have keyboard warriors, but you know you made it when you have haters.
Oh, yeah. Well, last thing on marketing, is there any major company that you are in the works with for your program? Because for one, I would love to see more massive companies, Fortune 500 companies, starting to involve themselves in drifting. And I feel like you and Cameron might be, other than RTR, the only candidate to do or pull it off.
I think what's cool is, and this is just from my perspective, is being that I have driven in other different forms of motorsports, like rallycross, or I drove monster trucks at some stage, and I've made so many creative, like, I would say decisions with the way I've marketed myself. So I'm an overall driver, which has allowed me a lot of opportunities to not just work with automotive sponsors or brands, but non-endemic brands. I get to go to New York Fashion Week as a Formula Drift driver. I get to go to a Women in Sports Foundation event as a Formula Drift driver. And there's people like professional tennis players there and like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a drifter. And I can educate them on that. So drifting is so cool because it came into the States in 2003 as Formula Drift, and we're the fastest growing motorsport. We're second to NASCAR on social media, and 80% of our fans do not attend NASCAR, NHRA, or IndyCar, which means the brands that are already invested in NASCAR, IndyCar, or NHRA have a whole new audience to tap in when they come over here. And that's been one of my bigger selling points when it comes to approaching these non-endemic brands.
How did you learn that?
It's in the Formula Drift FD deck.
Really?
They send it to every driver, just up to the drivers to read it.
People just don't leverage it enough?
Yeah, I mean, I've done my research, and like I said, I geek out over marketing, so yeah.
I'm glad you're saying all this. Because obviously FD doesn't do the best job of showing behind the scenes of what's going on, so on and so forth. So you get a lot of flack. I know you know that, but that's cool.
Yeah.
I like to see the behind everything. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, tell me more about the cars and what's going on with Cameron's and all the other ones. Because is your car even relatively the same, or do you guys drive different?
Yes. So
okay.
My car setup, my car package is similar to Cameron's car package, almost identical. We have same suspension. Everything is literally the same. Same transmission, same differential, same engine package. We're both running LS supercharged motors, and the difference is, though, I like to drive way different than Cameron. We often find that my setup is not very similar to Cameron's setup, but there are times where maybe we try something on Cameron's car that gave him the result that I possibly could have also wanted, and we'll bounce back ideas. However, then you have Brandon's car. Brandon's car is relatively the same, other than he does have the sequential. He has the upgrades that the pros are allowed to have. But speaking of the cars, Brandon is the one for the cars. He is so into developing new technology for these cars. Brandon and our team had designed the angle kits for our cars. And so our suspension is very similar setup to like most of the paddocks, but there's a few different things that he wanted to try coming from different backgrounds, like the trophy truck background and the off-road background, that possibly could work being applied here. And as you can see this year in his driving, he has found a lot of result with that. More forward grip to the ground so he can actually control where the tires are going. But Brandon, yeah, he's always in the shop in the morning working with this 3D printer, like printing up like a 3D replica of something bolted on the car to see if it'll fit, and then he goes into the CNC machines and cuts it out of the CNC machine, take it to the track, test it, and find all of the weak points and keep improving. So it's very cool to see how hands-on Brandon is with that stuff. He's very nerdy. Like, he is very nerdy in a very intelligent way, but it's also benefited us. And that's where Brandon and I work together great, because Brandon oversees the cars and he oversees a lot of the operation with that, and kind of is the final say if we were to choose between one suspension component and another. And I do all the other stuff like the marketing and the social media, but without the team, like, we wouldn't be as far as where we are now.
Well, other than a team, how do you get to a point to be able to have, like, obviously you mentioned CNC machine, that's not cheap. How do you get to the point of having all these resources to be able to offer this stuff to companies, not for just, research purposes or all
definitely.
that stuff. But
I think you don't even need to have your own CNC machine. There's
No.
times where Brandon will just send off the part and get made by somebody else, and he'll work with a brand. But that's where the relationships come into play. Be like, hey, I want to build a part. Are you on board? And you and I work together, and maybe you have the shop and I have the creative idea. But that's where relationships in Formula Drift, I think, is so important. And I remember, like, looking back 2 years ago, seeing teams like RTR and Papadakis and being like, why is it that they can go land these brands? And I feel that at the time I had a way larger social media reach. And this is kind of all I was focusing on. Why do they get these brands, but I can't get them? I don't know how to negotiate the deal right. Maybe they say, oh, sorry, we don't have budget, or we're not interested. And over time, I realized it's a timely thing. These things don't just happen overnight. The funding does not come in overnight. It's taken me 4 or 5 years of renegotiating one deal to be able to pay for the whole entire program. And with that being said, obviously we have a lot of support from around us, but it's to the stage where Brandon and I have taken our family hobby and turned it into a career. And it's fully sustainable as mine and Brandon's career. This is what we do. We wake up, I think about booking all of everybody's flights, and I think about posting on social media and sorting it out so I can continue to give the brands the deliverables that they've asked for. And in return, obviously, there's that sponsorship support. But it's a timely thing. It's seeing the same face over and over again for 4 or 5 years before they actually write you the check. And that's one thing that I've learned, because it shouldn't be an exchange relationship. It should be a supportive relationship. And I'm gonna benefit you in ways that your marketing team needs help that I can offer you. But if, maybe that brand that you're wanting to go after is not the right fit because they don't see any value in what you can actually offer, move to the next. But make sure you stay friends, have the relationship, and that's always important because it's always the same people in this industry, but the shirt badge always changes. And I think that that's one thing that's always important to remember too, is you never know who's watching and you never know where persons are gonna go. And so with that being said, the relationship part of this whole entire drifting thing is so, so crucial and important.
have you ever had a normal job, or you just been studying marketing your whole life?
I actually didn't tap into marketing till about 4 years ago.
Really?
So
Wow.
I went to school studying construction management. I worked for my parents
never guessed that.
at the front desk for their construction company for the longest time. I also was heavily involved in sports. I figure skated for a while. My brother and I played hockey together. My parents never let us chill. We were always busy. I played instruments. Drifting was just the one family hobby that had actually taken over, that Brandon and I were like, we love this. We see potential career here. Let's go after it.
How do you weed it out though? What about drifting was like, that's the one?
I mean, how can I tell you what's going to happen in the future? You live in the moment and you enjoy, and as the opportunities approach you, you either jump on the opportunities or you let them go by. And Brandon and I jumped on the opportunity when we had seen one. It wasn't easy. Like I said, we drove our semi-truck into a building. We drove our semi-truck into a bridge in New York.
I'd hope it wasn't a building. That'd be crazy.
You know what I'm saying? We didn't drive it into a bridge, but I'm from the West Coast. I didn't know that there's certain height limits on the bridges in New York. And Brandon and I were driving and we're like, oh, we might make it under here. It's a railroad pass and we're trying to get onto a different freeway. But those are the things that, as the opportunities came, we jumped on them. And in those moments, we're ready to take full responsibility of whatever the consequence is that we may not be prepared for. We're gonna try and give it our all, but that's life.
Well, as far as on the other end of things, back to the cars, Brandon, being so young into all this, how do you see all of the younger generation coming into the sport? We got the Big Sim stuff going on. We got Manoa showing out. What's your perspective on the future of drifting and how people are coming in?
I think the future of drifting is very, very large.
Oh, on your hat.
A spider again?
Can
we get it off? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I don't know what the fuck that
Jeez,
is.
they're really just attacking me.
Anyways, sorry,
Okay.
yeah.
I think when it comes to the future of drifting, I think it's large. I've had the opportunity to travel overseas and watch the Drift Masters events over there, see Pro-Am series over there, and go to even a place like Goodwood. Goodwood, the drifters go up the hill twice. No other class goes up the hill twice. Why? Because it's so cool. And I think drifting has such a large potential to just continue growing. And I think in the United States specifically, United States is about the entertainment. Like, we have the big shows. And so I think drifting will take off in a very positive direction. But with that being said, that's bringing a lot of younger talent into this, because instead of going to the go-kart track now, parents are buying drift cars for their kids, because the kids are seeing drifting online instead of seeing go-karting online. And your typical path of motorsports is starting in go-karting and getting into road racing stuff and going up the way to possibly some sort of Formula 4, Formula 3, or IMSA series, right? And now you have drifting. And it's like, to just show up at the grassroots events and see not just like the other drifters like us out there, but you have the parents coming and supporting the kids, I think is a huge part in what the future of the sport will possibly be. You have drivers like Hiro Manoa, Cameron, my younger brother, coming in, and they're driving on the simulator, which obviously is more sustainable for a budget aspect. And they're getting that seat time. They're crashing the car 100 times on the simulator. And there's no budget involved there. You just gotta have the sim. And that translates to real life. I see in my own driving, the simulator has helped me so much just for visual reference points, learning car reactions, that kind of stuff.
I assume you're on a Sim Magic setup?
Yeah,
Right,
we're on a
okay.
Sim Magic, Extreme Sim setup. And with that, I think, I can't wait to see the younger generation come into this. I even look at Brandon, I'm like, after I watch Cameron's battles, I'm like, holy, like, this is insane, Brandon. Like, we gotta step up our game. Think about where he's gonna be when he's our age, And I like to see the younger talent in. We have, like, Jay the Drifter. I love to see that. This is what this sport needs. And it's just cool to see the young talent coming in, because this is where the parents are feeling confident in this sport to start their kid, which is so cool.
Arguably one of the safest motorsport, I would say.
I agree. I think drifting is one of the safest motorsports.
Shelly, for example, not to bring that back up, but flipping the car. I mean,
Yeah.
even though that is flipping a car, you're going very slow. So, and cars are very structurally sound.
Exactly,
Cages
yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. But you mentioned Goodwood, though. I got to talk about that. How was that experience being able to go out there and just not even just drive it, but let alone be a part of it?
So this is my first year at Goodwood, and like I said, it's crazy. I debuted a hydrogen car. It's the Extreme H car. So it's the first FIA licensed hydrogen racing series, and they're all-wheel drive hydrogen rally cars. So last year and the year prior, I raced for Chip Ganassi Racing in an Extreme E, which was, Extreme E has now turned into Extreme H. The Extreme E stuff is electric rally car, but they asked me, like, hey, do you want to come help with the debut of the hydrogen car? Give us your driver feedback. We think that it's very important that all the drivers are getting in and telling us what they think compared to the E-car. So I drove the hydrogen car up the hill, and it was insane. I worked with BMW and drove the BMW CS Touring up the hill. But it's so sick to just see, like, motorsports is such a cool thing. I remember sitting there just having a moment to myself, being like, it's insane that all these people from all over the world have come together to just gather around cars, automotive. Whether it's the most expensive car in the parking lot, or auctioning off cars, or drifters drifting up the hill, or vintage F1 cars, it's just such a cool big community. And I think about it, and it's like, this industry is so huge. It's as huge as all the other industries that it's able to compete with them.
Especially from an internet point of view, because you don't get to see. I know Drift Masters has a lot of light shined on it, but I know it's not as big of a crowd as you would find here at FD normally, right?
Yeah.
So I know that can get lost in transition, though, whenever it's online. I assume you agree with that?
For, like, you're comparing Drift Masters to Formula Drift?
Well, no, just like
Or like Goodwood?
how big you're explaining drifting to be. It seems a lot
see what you're
bigger
saying.
than it actually is online.
I would disagree. I think that when I look online, I would think that drifting, like, when you look online, you see things like Formula 1 updates all the time. you see IMSA updates all the time, at least I do. And it's like, sometimes when I'm talking to brands, they overlook how big drifting is. And I say, the last round of Drift Masters is in Poland in a stadium that fills 60,000 people. That's how big drifting is, 60,000 people. Our first round's in Long Beach, and they shut down the streets. So the people who are there can't drive on the street, so we could have a drift event. That's how big drifting is. And when you bring a brand, or you bring a fan, or you bring a friend, or a family member to Formula Drift, or to any of the drifting events, I think it's always ending in a wow factor. It's like, I think it's overlooked how big it is.
All right, I'll agree with that.
Just
sorry,
saying.
I'm sorry.
No.
It's just, I feel like the media is pushing it. Obviously, it needs to be that way, but it pushes it in a way that it looks better than the events usually are, which is totally fine. That's the whole point, because you want it to become that and be bigger, so on and so forth. But I just want drifting to grow.
I agree,
just like
definitely.
I assume you do too.
Yeah.
So, do you think FD could ever be as big as NASCAR? Because you compared them a little bit earlier.
I think definitely. I think that Formula Drift, it's one of those things where, like, as much as you want to have control and make it like NASCAR, sometimes you just got to let the world do its thing. And
You
it
think
doesn't
Americans
need to
will
be,
adopt it like that?
Yeah, but like, it doesn't need to be NASCAR to be cool or to be as valuable.
Yeah.
Air Force sponsors a NASCAR, and they also sponsor me. Like, we're doing same opportunities, we're doing same things, like, but also, if it was like NASCAR, then it wouldn't make it original, it wouldn't make it Formula Drift anymore.
Fair, yeah.
So the demographic that's coming here is definitely like, this demographic is very unique, but that's what makes it unique. You don't want to have a fan coming and be like, oh, like, remember we used to come here and watch the NASCAR drivers go around and around, but now like we're watching drifters? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Formula Drift's unique because it's its own thing. If it were to
definitely
come
more
just
fun to
like
watch.
NASCAR, then, you know, I do think that there's a lot of variables from NASCAR that I would love to see come into the Formula Drift industry, possibly like team franchises. I think that that would allow somebody like me, who's a driver, something to look forward to when I decide I want to retire.
You don't think that would make Formula Drift, obviously it would have to be that way, but too inaccessible at that point?
No, I think it also
Or do you
would
think
help.
it only makes it better?
I think it would also help the drivers to be more motivated to find the funding. Like, you don't have to pay a marketing manager any money. You have to give them 20% of what they bring you. So to have a conversation with a marketing manager and say, hey, can you sell my sponsorship for me, requires $0 up front. At the end of the day, once they seal the deal and the deal's done, they get 20%, but 20% gone from your paycheck is better than nothing, in my opinion. But I think turning it into something like a franchise will allow it to be more of a sustainable career. I'm looking at Brandon being like, how much longer are we gonna do this? When do we actually say stop? And what do we do from this? Where do we go next? If we had a franchise, I could easily put Cameron in the car and say, well, there's 32 spots on the grid, and that's how much my buy-in is. My car's there. Team Sorensen owns 3 spots. Doesn't matter who's driving the car. So it's like a NASCAR sort of franchise situation.
How long do you think it would take to even do that? Or do we technically have the means to make that happen?
I think anything takes time, obviously. It could take 2-3 years to kind of get that through. But also, like, it's like them coming up with the idea, being like, let's get rid of qualifying. You never know till you try.
I do really wish they'd bring qualifying back.
I agree. I like the qualifying aspect. I think it's cool because it always is changing up the show. But I'm not too sure exactly what their reasonings are behind the seating bracket and why they chose the qualifying format, or to get rid of the qualifying format. But I personally, as a driver, liked the qualifying things. But sometimes, you know, there's the hidden variables that we're not too sure of.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked to a single driver that wishes it would stay this way. Every single driver I've talked to is like, nope, bring qualifying back. This shit makes no sense.
Yeah.
So,
Understandable.
Yeah. Anyways, I did want to ask on Goodwood, though. Is that road as sketchy as it looks?
Yeah,
And
my
everyone
first
is?
time going up the hill, I was in the M3 CS Touring, and I hadn't even like done track walk. Like,
oh no!
I literally watched onboards, and I was like, okay, sweet. And I was doing first glance group, so first glance of the 2026 car, and I went up the hill, and I just remember everyone being like, okay, well, watch out for the turn past the bridge, because there's no forgiveness at the end of it, and it's a hard left-hander after a long straight. But the hill it definitely gets more technical as you go up it, when you start getting into the walls and getting into the hay bales. But it's so sick. It's so sick.
It looks so sketchy.
Watching Ryan Turek link the top of that course inspired me so much, and I was like, one day I'm gonna have a drift car there. One day I will drift up the Goodwood hill. We're starting out with debuting the hydrogen car, but one day I will drift up the hill.
Next year.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. Yeah, no, that shit's insane. What was the whole no donut thing? Was that just a meme, or was that an actual rule that they made?
That was
tried
just,
to make?
well, you were only allowed to do donuts if you were in a certain group. You got 2 donuts you're allowed to make, but that was for the drift group, or like the demo group they call it. The rest of the guys, you're not allowed to because of the way that the timing was of the show and how they timed everything.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, because you have to remember at the end of the day, this is still a show, so the production team's a little bit behind that.
Always gotta wait on the cameraman.
Yeah, exactly.
And you also did Drift Masters too.
Yeah, Drift Masters in Ireland.
How did that go?
That was good. It was a huge learning experience for me. That was my first time driving turbo, first time driving 2JZ, first time driving a GT86, first time driving in Ireland. Like, it was like a lot of firsts for me.
So are we on the 2J train now?
I loved the 2J. It was sick.
Yeah.
I haven't really done proper chase runs yet with the turbo, so we'll see how. I'm going to be doing 3 more events this year in that car. So
Oh shit.
I'm excited to be doing that, but different platform, different package, a lot to learn in. I had 0 expectations other than to have fun and absorb all the knowledge, and I exceeded all those expectations. And so for me, it was super cool. I laid down 269 runs, which I think I was a little gypped on my second run, but that track is scary. Like, it's a blind entry, and in the driver's meeting, they're like, no handbrake on entry. And I'm like, sweet,
Yo,
you want me to go
what?
in here at 140 kilometers per hour and not pull the handbrake? Like, they're like, if you're on handbrake, we don't want to see it. So my first run, they deducted me a lot of points because I was on handbrake. I'm like, it's kind of impossible to go through here without pulling the
It's my first
handbrake.
lap. Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. My second run, I actually nailed the entry, barely any handbrake, and they gave me a great amount of points. But the car, unfortunately, I got stuck on lock going into the 1 zone, and from there it was kind of a domino effect, and I dropped a tire in the last turn. Lost my points there, and I was like, dang, if I would have completed that lap, I easily would have had like an 80 score on the board and would have been in the show. But I showed up with my goals, and I checked all of them off. So we're looking forward to the next one.
Shit, when's that one gonna be?
We'll see. I have to confirm the wild card. I have it confirmed, but the news is not out yet. So
Yeah. It looks like that track is just one of those tracks. If you don't nail the entry, the entire lap is toast. Like, you can just scratch
my
it.
spotter was like, I don't even care about the second half. As soon as you get the entry done, then we'll work on the second half. But you need to get the entry because the entry is like 80% of this score here.
Did you do anything in a sim to practice for that, like specifically?
No, unfortunately, just the way my schedule played out, I was not even home. I haven't been home for 2 months. I get to go home for the first time on Sunday, back to Vegas, just because of all the other events that I was going to. So obviously from that, like, we went to Atlanta, then we went to Spain for the Drift Masters event. I had training in Spain prior to going to the Drift Masters event, and I got 4 laps in the car and the motor blew up when I went to go train. So I was like, all right, sweet. So we got to schedule another test day. So I ended up going and testing in Ireland at a different track. So I just didn't get to go home with the situation that was happening. So no sim training. The only training I really had done to prepare for that was a few laps around the track, and then the motor blew. So.
Well, that's rough. Well,
it's what
seem
it
to
is,
have
though.
done better than no training. I guess.
Agreed.
But all right, well, cool. I know you're still busy helping out over there, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I really appreciate it. Is there any advice that you could give to just anyone trying to go down this rabbit hole of Formula Drift?
I think the important key is just know that it's not all uphill. And every single time you feel like it's just all gonna fall apart, it's gonna get better. It's all a growing pain. Every single mistake you make, look at it as a learning point and learn as much as you can. And I would say with that, like, it's so easy to just be like, wow, I didn't win the championship my first season showing up in Formula Drift. I didn't win the first round that I showed up. Like, nobody's going to. But if you won all the time, like, what's the point in the journey? So enjoy it and enjoy the failures. That would be my piece of advice.
Awesome. Well, cool. Is there anything that you can announce or want to announce or shout out any sponsors, anything like that?
I don't think I have any big announcements right now, to be
Cool.
honest. So, yeah.
Easy peasy. Well, I want to say thank you again for taking the time, and good luck at the next one, Utah, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on Circle of Drift. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime.
Thank
I got to
you.
get the brothers on, too.
Yes, we'll bring them over.
What another great episode this week. And obviously, if you made it this far, you're one of the OGs of the podcast, or maybe you're a new one. So thank you for sticking around this long. If you did enjoy it or learn anything new out of the episode, I just ask that you consider subscribing and turning on the bell notifications. But other than that, don't forget we do have merch on the site, circleofdrift.co.
To the ceiling. Trust no bitch, can't catch no feelings. I've been taking long flights from the Bay to Ibiza. Hit home runs, I'm a ball like Jeter. I just want 4-4-4, then I leave her. I'm a young pop star, call the boy Justin Bieber. Got a little money if you want, I can teach her. Whole life a movie, you can watch it in theater.